Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
What is up, and welcome into the One and Done show. Normally, we are your fast break of information for CBB DFS, but now we are better than 13 days into the month of March, but it is officially March Madness as we sit here on Selection Sunday. We've got full visibility into the brackets. The field of 64/68 is set, and the One and Done show will be here not only tonight breaking down the left half of the bracket, but we're running content out to you guys every single day this week. We'll be here tomorrow with the other half of the bracket, and we got a few special things that'll be trickling out here on Tuesday and on Wednesday. So definitely stay plugged in with us. We're super excited about March Madness kicking off. And with that, I will kick pass over to the captain of our ship, Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, how's it going tonight?
It's going great, man. Just glad to see the tournament set. The field is set. A lot of different storylines here. Obviously, getting into the seeding. There were some surprises here. A couple of teams getting in that didn't know if we were going to get in. Like a Michigan getting an 11 seed. That was a little bit interesting there. Not seeing Wake Forest, unfortunately, with Alondis Williams and Jake LaRavia, who we talked a lot about in DFS. Unfortunately, they didn't quite make it in, and Texas A&M made a pretty good run, but unfortunately weren't able to close the deal in the SEC title game against Tennessee. And then the fact that Tennessee was dealt a 3 seed was really interesting. I don't really know how the committee came up with that, but here we are.
Man, of everything that you laid out, that Tennessee 3 seed feels like the weirdest. I mean, like literally in their side of the bracket, they have 2 wins over the 2 seed. They have a win over a number 1 seed in Arizona, yet they're sitting here after a deep run in the SEC tournament as a 3 seed. Ultimately, I don't think it really, impacts their path all that much. Gives them a tougher out in the Elite Eight as opposed to, waiting through the Final Four. But I guess maybe staying in this kind of macro sense, any team that you think has kind of a clearer path to coming out of their region over another?
Yeah, I think Kansas was dealt a pretty good draw here. Definitely looking at their path here. Probably not going to get challenged. I know we're probably going to talk about them tomorrow on the right side of the bracket. But you look at it, man, there's going to be some fun and exciting first-round matchups. And you look at some of the big boys clash here, which we'll get into on our picks here. It's going to be tough to pick these teams, man. So this is what makes the tournament so great. This is why something like $9 billion is wagered over the next 3 to 4 weeks here. So yeah, definitely exciting times. Thursday is always the best time of the year for me. So just looking forward to it.
Yeah, it is not only enough money changing hands to count as I think the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world, but it also leads into Thursday, which is hands down the least productive day, at least in terms of people getting work done. So a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, we're going to be with you guys all week here on the One and Done show. And with that, we will jump right on in. Like I mentioned at the top, we're going to break down this entire bracket. We're going to split it up into 2 pieces. So tonight, we are mainly looking at the left side of the bracket here. You can see that we've got all 68 of our teams laid out. We'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit here so we can get a better view of what it is that we're going to be breaking down on the bracket tonight. And with that, we will dive right in. For some of these matchups, we're going to move pretty quick. For the ones that are a little bit more interesting, we're going to spend a little bit more time. And as always, we're going to double back with some shorts, with some clips, and some tweets going out all week to get you the information that you need in order to fill out your winning bracket. So with that, we will kick right off with the 116 matchup. We have Gonzaga and Georgia State. Mike, you're kicking us off with a huge upset, right?
Not going to happen, man. This isn't the the Virginia, what was it, like 3 years ago when the 16 beat them. No, that's not going to happen here. Shout out to our guys down there in Atlanta, Georgia State Panthers here. A really nice season winning the Sun Belt. Really did it by creating havoc here, causing turnovers. Caden Williams had a nice year, 12 points, 4 rebounds, and then Corey Allen's a really nice scorer, 15 points. But you're going up against an elite offense and an elite defense, as Gonzaga's first in the country in offensive efficiency and 7th in defensive efficiency. They're just going to overwhelm Georgia State. So pretty safe to say they'll be moving on.
Smell you later, Panthers. The next matchup on the other side of this bracket is going to be a bit more intriguing. We've got the first 8-9 matchup on the board, the Boise State Broncos and the Memphis facing off as an 8-9 matchup. Mike, who are you liking with this pairing?
Yeah, I actually really like this matchup. So you get a surging Memphis team. Seems like when Penny Hardaway went on the rant, all of a sudden his team started playing really well. And now they're talking about how he knows how to coach now. So it's funny how a month can change, the narrative here. Boise State, really tough defensively, 17th in defensive efficiency. The problem is they just struggle to score the ball. I mean, they shoot 65% from the free throw line, but they got some really good athletes, so they're able to, they get able to get out and run, use that defense to score some points. The problem with Memphis here, and why I like Boise State to move on here, is just the turnovers. I mean, when you get to this point of the year, it feels like you need solid card play, and when you're ranked 352nd in turnover percentage, that's going to be against an elite defense. That's just going to spell trouble. Jalen Duren's been playing really well for Memphis lately, really starting to figure it out. Could be a top pick in the NBA draft. But overall, Boise State, they've got some talent and they've got experience. So I definitely think Marcus Shaver is going to be the difference here, being able to control the ball for Boise State here and turning over the Memphis Tigers. So I do like Boise State to move on here.
And like you mentioned, Memphis has really come on over the last month or so, really ever since that stump speech by Hardaway. But we've got them ultimately falling here in the round of 64. And so we will move on to the very first of our vaunted 5-12 matchups. These is typically where you see most people out there picking a lot of their upsets and Cinderellas. Are you going to follow suit, or who do you like coming out of this Connecticut and New Mexico State tilt?
Yeah, so I think this one's interesting, right? You've got New Mexico State, and they feature one of the better scorers in the country, Teddy Allen. They transferred over from Nebraska, almost averaging 20 points a game. He just doesn't have much to go with him. They also turn the ball over a lot. They're 313th in the country in turnover percentage. And surprisingly, just like we talked about, earlier, free throw percentage. I mean, if you're not going to make your free throws in the clutch, you're going to have a really hard time closing down these games. They're shooting just under 70% from the free throw line. So you look over and you just look at Connecticut's size, right? They start 2 traditional bigs, Isaiah Whaley and your guy, Sanogo here. Just 2 beasts in the middle. And then RJ Cole's just been a really solid card for them this year. They're first in offensive rebounding percentage. So New Mexico State's going to have a hard time keeping them off the glass. And they're 21st in adjusted offensive efficiency. So they know how to score the ball. It's just a tough matchup for New Mexico State. I do like Connecticut here to win pretty easily. Actually, it'll be interesting to see where the line comes in on this one. So I'm definitely going to want to take the points here if the price is right.
So that is a perfect tease for some of the content I'll be pushing out later this week, which is going to be a prop and betting video coming out here before these games kick off. So definitely keep an eye for the line on that UConn game. And New Mexico State, the Aggies, fantastic job at making it through your conference tournament, but that is where your postseason aspirations will end. We will carry on to Arkansas and Vermont, our 4-13 matchup here in the West. Looking at the Razorbacks or looking at the Catamounts, which of these 2 teams do you like to proceed from this round of 64?
Well, here it is, right? This is, everybody's talking about it as soon as the pick, as soon as the selection brackets came out here. I mean, Vermont's one of those darling teams that can make some noise here, and I do like them to pull the upset here. You look at Arkansas, and, JD Notae and Jalen Williams have been fantastic this year. The problem is they just don't shoot well from the outside. I mean, they're shooting 30% from three. It's going to be really hard to advance in the big dance. Now I get it. You obviously you can find other ways to score the ball, getting into the paint here. But you look at what Vermont does well, and they're first in a opponent offensive rebound percentage. So you're getting one shot and you're done. So unless they're getting to the foul line, Arkansas is going to have a little bit of a tougher time, securing additional possessions here off the rebounds. Ryan Davis, man, watch this guy play a few times this year. He's averaging 17 points and 5 rebounds a game. Just a really good big here for Vermont. Definitely going to be a lot of action on Vermont. Sometimes when there's too much action on it, it feels like, these are the ones that blow up in our face, but they're a really good team, fourth in the country in effective field goal percentage. So just really getting it done here. So I definitely like them to take down Arkansas here.
Yeah, lot to like about this Vermont team, and it's really the perfect storm for them, right? They're first in opponent offensive rebound rate, so their opponents aren't getting their own boards and getting putbacks. And Arkansas is 219th in effective field goal percentage, right? So they are not making very many shots, and they're not getting very many second chance opportunities. So makes a lot of sense why this is where our first upset will live. Continuing on here in the West, we have our first play-in game. We've got number 6 Alabama facing the winner of Rutgers and Notre Dame, which will technically be the 11 seed. Mike, you want to start with that 11 seed, or you want to just jump into which of these two sides you're ultimately going to favor?
No, yeah, just real quick on the playing game. I love this playing game. Like, it's going to be a really fun DFS game. It's going to be a fun betting game. Obviously, these playing games happen on Tuesday. You get Rutgers sliding in here against Notre Dame. Man, I mean, you're going to get Ron Harper Jr. Facing off against our guy, your guy here, Blake Wesley, right? Fantasy darling. The thing about this here is that Rutgers they just like to muck up the game, and Notre Dame really likes to play, turnover free, getting a quality shot. So I think it's going to be interesting to see these two teams face off. In the end, Ron Harper's just been so good in the clutch. And so I have to go with them to take that 11 seed away from Notre Dame here. So when you follow that up and match them up with Alabama, man, Alabama, right? So the thing on Alabama is bigs have really beaten up Alabama. That's not really something Rutgers has. They don't really have inside scoring where you can dump the ball in, play through the post. So that's going to be a little bit nullified here. So I do like Alabama to get out and try to speed the game up a little bit here. They're 14th in offensive efficiency and really getting to the rack, right? I mean, they're set 9th in the country in 2-point percentage. So, not the greatest 3-point shooting team, just like Arkansas. But these guys when they get to the rim, they're finishing, and they got super athletic guards that we've been playing in DFS all year. Shackelford can shoot from 3. The rest of the guys just attack the rim at will. So just going to be a tougher matchup for Rutgers to kind of hang on here. So I do like Alabama to squeak past them, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a really close game here.
Yeah, and once we get into the tournament, right, it is all about matchups. So while Rutgers has a favorable matchup to get into that 11 seed, I tend to agree, right? They don't have the size and kind of that inside scoring presence to bang with Bama and to take advantage of the weak spot in their deployment. So definitely makes sense that Bama's carrying on. We will carry on ourselves to our 3-14 matchup for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and we've got the Montana State Bobcats. Do we have another upset on deck, or are you playing this one with the chalk?
No. Here, you just got to move on with Tech, right? Great job, Montana State. The Big Sky, automatic bid here. But it's just a mismatch here. Texas Tech, number 1 defensive team in the country. Montana State's just going to have a really tough time scoring the basketball. They do have Xavier Bishop. He's a nice little guard here, but he's only 5'8". Man, Texas Tech is super physical. Look for Mark Adams and company here to take these guys out. Bello's also a pretty decent big, but man, you throw in Marcos Santos Silva, and Texas Tech's just going to beat you down low. So I do like Texas Tech to move on here, but a great season by Montana State.
For sure. And, we talked a little bit off the top about the surprise 3 seed in Tennessee. make an argument for Texas Tech themselves. They probably deserve to be a 2 seed at least. You can kind of make an argument for 1, but they themselves are a little bit underseeded. So interesting to see how they will advance from here. That takes us to the 7-10 matchup here in the West. We've got Michigan State, the Spartans, against the Davidson number 10 seed. They are going to be looking at least hoping for Steph Curry to maybe dust off, come back and play another year of eligibility. But apart from that, how do you think about the 2022 version of this Davidson team?
Yeah, so we saw Davidson today get actually taken down here in a 2-point loss to Richmond in the conference championship game. But overall, a fantastic season by Davidson. They have some really nice pieces. Foster Loyer was kind of taken out of this game, but he's had a really good season. He, transferring from Michigan State, so you got Narrative Street here. We'll see. Man, when I look at this, I really want to pick Davidson. I love the big man Luka here. Can just do so many different things. But when I look at it, and you look at the metrics here, Davidson gives up almost a rate here of 43.8 attempts here out of 100 for 3-point shots here. So they're just giving up a ton of threes. And guess what? Our guys here at Michigan State can knock down the 3 ball. They're 18th in 3-point percentage. The problem is their rate's only 33.4. They just don't take enough threes. I mean, when you're 18th in the country, you would think you would take more threes. Izzo has a couple of post players he likes to play through, and they still love that mid-range game. But looking for Michigan State to really expose that advantage there with the 3-point ball.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and the point that really comes to mind for me is the temptation you shared about potentially selecting Davidson to move on. I kind of feel like they're going to be one of the kind of chalkier Cinderella teams, right? Large swaths of the people that fill out brackets, they are looking to kind of be the smartest guy in the room and figure out who that Cinderella is. And I think Davidson has a bit of that name recognition, and they're sitting there in that 10-7 matchup to where I think some people are going to be clicking that button to advance them to the next round or maybe even to the Sweet 16. So
yeah, I actually
getting a little bit of leverage on the field going with MSU.
Yeah, and just one quick thing too. The thing about Michigan State, they don't have a superstar, so a lot of people look at that and they're just like, they barely have one guy averaging double digits, but that doesn't mean that they're not a well-rounded team. So,
yeah, very true. And speaking of superstars, we will move on and talk about the superstars of the Cal State Fullerton Titans. Shout out proud alumni Adam Rank of NFL Network. He is over here banging the drum that they are going to make the upset against the number 2 Blue Devils. Do you agree, or is that a bit of homerism on Adam's side?
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I know Duke struggled in that loss to Virginia Tech here in the ACC championship game, but man, they're just oozing with talent, with athleticism. Paulo Banchero, just really good player here, especially when he's locked and engaged. You look at it here, I mean, they're just going to be able to get to the rim and get open looks from the outside. AJ Griffin from Duke really came on second half of the year here, really creating that outside shot that's kind of been missing as you have a lot of slashers. Banchero can shoot it a little bit from 3, but Wendell Moore and Mark Williams like to be in the paint. So it's just going to be too much. Duke runs a very short rotation, but the guys that they're running out there, potential, if not NBA players, are going to be playing overseas. So definitely looking at Duke here to pull away with this one.
Yeah, and that Duke rotation is already short, but now in the tournament, we tend to see coaches kind of shorten up the rotations even more. So if you're talking about the athleticism and the raw talent of the starting 5 for Duke versus just about anybody, including Cal State Fullerton, they're in for a long day. So we will scroll on down to the East. We've got another 1-16 matchup with the Baylor Bears facing off against Norfolk, the 16 seed. Anything out of the ordinary here? Anything you want to shout out, or are we just rolling through with one defeating 16?
Nah, I mean, great job, Norfolk State here. 24-6 record here. Joe Bryant had a really nice season for them. But Baylor, playing in that Big 12, they're going to be prepared to knock this one home. And I just don't see it here. So definitely like Baylor to move on, but a great season by Norfolk.
Shout out Norfolk, and we'll carry on
Don't love
to
that.
8-9. We have the UNC Tar Heels and the Marquette Golden Eagles. Pretty kind of comparable seasons here, right? Another tough 8-9 matchup for us to make sense of. So how do you see this one going?
Yeah, nobody's going to want to play North Carolina, right? Because you've got the big man, Baycott, who I thought should have been ACC Player of the Year, but I'm not upset that Londis Williams got it. And then you have the two guards here, right? North Carolina can make some noise. If Caleb Love is on and not turning the ball over, him and RJ Davis are a really good backcourt. When you factor in Brady Manek's ability to shoot the three, man, like the profile against Marquette is just these two bigs here. It's going to be too much. And DFS, we talked about it. Every time Marquette's on the slate, we're jamming in the two forwards from the other team. They're just not able to stop these guys down low. Justin Lewis, excellent season this year. Shout out Marquette. Shout out to Shaka, man, after everything that happened at our, here in the ATX. But getting it done with not much expectation of Marquette, but playing super fast over there. But at the end of the day, man, Baykosh is going to be too much for them. And I'm definitely interested in to see the spread here because I think this one could get a little out of hand here.
Yeah, certainly could. And while we are shouting out, we'll talk a little bit more about DFS as we get closer into the tip-off of the tournament. But shout out to our guy, Justin Lewis. Amazing season, like you mentioned, and clinically underowned. I would imagine if we're looking at a field of whatever it is, 32 teams in the first slate here on Thursday or on Friday, probably going to see Justin Lewis close to 1 or 2% owned, and very much so can have a big day. So we'll talk more about DFS, but we have been riding the Justin Lewis wave. He is largely off of people's radars, and that has opened up some value for us and some leverage to the field all season long. Our next game is another 5-12 matchup, but this one features a play-in game. So we've got the 5 seed St. Mary's Gales and the 12 seed to be named later. Want to kick us off with the Cowboys and the Hoosiers and let us know who you think gets in?
Man, I had to rein myself in, man. I've been talking about Wyoming all year. I'm going to pick them to beat Indiana here. Graham Mikey and Hunter Maldonado, man, dynamic duo here. These guys can score. They're a lot of fun to watch. Man, I just, when you have Trace Jackson Davis on the other side, it's really tough to pick against, especially how they looked in the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, shout out to TJD. He had a really good season this year. But I just think in the end, man, people are going to be surprised at what Wyoming can do. And if we pick them to move on, I was really this close, and I still may change it to having Wyoming upset St. Mary's. So the thing about St. Mary's, right, they play really, really good defense. They got a couple of guys that can score the ball, but they just like to muck up the game. They're basically the West Coast version of Texas and Texas Tech. Really just want to limit the possessions, wear you down, and just kind of knock you out towards the end of the game here. I mean, they had a really nice win against Gonzaga a few weeks ago. So definitely a really tough team here, a really tough 5 seed. But, man, I wouldn't be upset if you picked Wyoming over St. Mary's. Obviously, they would need to get through Indiana first. So that's part of the reason why I like St. Mary's in our bracket right here is because you're already playing on Tuesday a really tough Indiana team, and then you're going to have to face these guys who are just going to beat you up. Graham Mikey sometimes struggles with foul issues. He can get in trouble here in the game, or the first game or the second game, and it's going to be lights out from there. So I definitely like St. Mary's.
Yeah, fair point, right? People love picking that 12 seed. Specifically if we see Wyoming prevail against the Hoosiers, certainly would expect a good amount of people to have them advancing. But St. Mary's has had a fantastic year, and like you mentioned, they really inject a little chaos into the game, and it's hard for teams to adjust to that, especially under the lights of the big dance. So we will tango on to our 4-13 seed. We have the UCLA Bruins, and we have the Akron Zips. Mike, who you like in this matchup?
Man, UCLA played Arizona really tough in that championship game last night. And a 4 seed. They're dangerous. They got Johnny Juzang, Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, Jules Bernard. I mean, the same guys that were there last year that made the run all the way to the to the end there. So, great job, Akron. Man, they can't really defend the three. I know, UCLA isn't the greatest team from three, but overall, when you're the 15th ranked team in offensive efficiency and 12th in defensive efficiency, you got a chance to go a really long way. So just a little too much for the Zips to handle here. So definitely like UCLA to move on.
UCLA is scary and dangerous 4 seed, especially looking at this matchup here in the second round, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before then, we will stay here in the first round. And let's talk about your UT Longhorns getting done dirty. 6-11 against Virginia Tech. Who did Virginia Tech piss off to become an 11 seed? Or should I say, who did the Longhorns piss off to have to square off with Vatek here in the first round?
Yeah. I can't be a homer here. I mean, I think KenPom has Virginia Tech as the 27th best team in the country, and they're an 11 seed. Yeah. Texas is not playing well right now. Defense has kind of gotten away from them. That's Chris Beard's thing. The offense hasn't been there all year. Virginia Tech, meanwhile, it beat up North Carolina and Duke to win the ACC championship game. It just seems like one team is going one way and the other team is going the other way. So Texas is going to struggle. They're smaller. They lost Trey Mitchell, the big man. And now you're going to have to deal with the Luma and Mutts. And man, it should be a popular one, but it's Chris Beard, right? So you can never count him out. The things that he does in March, we've seen it before. But if I'm a betting man, I'm looking at Virginia Tech to pull the upset here, and it pains me to say that.
I honestly wouldn't have been surprised to see this matchup, but with Virginia Tech as the 6th seed and Texas as the 11th seed.
Right.
So, going to be a popular choice. We will roll on to our 3-14 tilt. We've got the Purdue Boilermakers and the Yale Bulldogs. How about some Ivy League magic here on March Madness?
Man, if anybody can do it, it's Azar Swain. The dude can straight up score. It's going to be, he's really going to show out here. But man, we playing DFS and just talking college basketball a year. I mean, we got our guys Edey here and Trevian Williams for Purdue. It's going to be too much for Yale to handle. And then Jaden Ivey, man, just an NBA prospect here, top 5 pick most likely. So really like Purdue here, and shouldn't be much of a challenge as Yale's not great at defending people inside the 2-point arc here. So that's probably a problem when you play Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, basically, unless you have an immovable object, you're going to have a hard time with those Purdue bigs. We have been not only taking advantage of that matchup all year in DFS, but we've also been fading opposing bigs. So the Yale Bulldogs, fantastic year, but you will be going home here in short order. And that takes us to our 7-10 matchup, Murray State Racers and San Francisco Dons. Who you like out of this one, Mike?
Man, this is going to be a fun game, especially at DFS, man. And just in general, like this is going to be a really, really fun game. Both teams like to get up and down the floor. Both teams can score. Like to shoot the 3 ball here. Man, it's just really tough to pick. Murray State's had an amazing season. I'm going to have to go with KJ Williams, though, with Murray State, man. He's just been so dominant this year. And you look at it like the thing about San Francisco, and we kind of saw that against Gonzaga here, is that they play too much one-on-one basketball. They're 272nd in assist rate, which is not great. So definitely like it's Murray State here.
Yeah, I mean the Dons are surprisingly efficient considering that they're not creating a whole lot of shots for their teammates, but ultimately tend to think that they are going to come up a little bit short against the Racers. And so that leaves us with our last matchup of the first round here in the East. The number 2 Wildcats, even though they lost twice to Tennessee, and the number 15 Peacocks of St. Peter's. Got a spicy upset to round out our first round, or are you keeping it pretty chalky?
No, I think we keep it chalky here, right? Kentucky's going to beat these guys up. So, great job here to the old Peters.
Peacocks have done their best this year, but will be a first-round exit. And that gets us all the way through the first round here on the left side of the bracket. So we will get ready for the second round. Before we do, we will do a quick recap. Looking here in the West specifically, We've got Gonzaga advancing to play Boise State. We have UConn facing off against the 13-team Vermont. Bama and Texas Tech, that's a 6-3. And MSU and Duke, the 7-2. So pretty much chalk straight across except for that number 13 seed advancing. So let's kick off the second round with number 1 and number 8 Gonzaga against Boise. How do you see this one going, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Gonzaga's just too good here, right? Like Boise State's going to have to score. They can't score. That's going to be a problem, right? So definitely looking at Gonzaga here to, just kind of impose their will. Boise State's just not going to have enough offensive firepower.
Yeah, I mean, the Zags here are the number 1 overall seed for a reason, right? So Boise State, another team that is particularly efficient, but not going to be enough here in the second round against that number 1 overall seed. Our next matchup, 5-13. UConn coming in as the 5 seed. And again, we've got the Vermont Catamounts at number 13 coming off of the upset. Do they keep dancing? Does the slipper still fit, or are they turning back into a pumpkin in round number 2?
Nah, going back to a pumpkin, man. Connecticut is too big. RJ Cole's going to be kind of doing this thing here. So, man, like this is where, and what's going to happen here. First in offensive rebounding percentage for Connecticut. First in opponent offensive rebounding percentage for Vermont. We're going to see what happens. This is going to be a closer game than people think here. Obviously, we have Vermont if they're able to move on from that first round. But Connecticut, man, they're going to be a tough 5 seed. Nobody's going to want to play these guys. So definitely like Connecticut to move on here.
And a lot of things to like about this Connecticut team, and we will double click on those as we get a little bit further into the bracket. Our next game up is the 6-3 matchup, Alabama and Texas Tech. How are you liking this one to unfold in the second round, Mike?
Yeah, so we talked about Texas Tech, right? A really good defensive team, number 1 in the country. Alabama struggles from 3. Well, guess what? Texas Tech is going to pack it in and let them shoot all the threes they want, and they're going to give them nothing on the inside. So, man, it's just a bad matchup for Alabama. Definitely like Tech here. They're going to slow the game down. Alabama's not going to like that. And so, yeah, looking at Texas Tech to move on.
Bigs against Bama has been the model for us all year. Bryce Williams is going to absolutely impose his will in this game. So we will see the Red Raiders move on, and we will move on to the last of our second round matchups here in the West. Number 2, Duke. Number 7, Michigan State. How's this one settle out for you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State, look, it's Tom Izzo, right? So you can never count them out. But, man, Duke is just so talented. I don't think they get enough from Mark Williams or give him enough chances to really dominate. But you just look at it here, man. Like, it's just a bunch of superstars against a wave of players here. Michigan State's probably going to run out upwards of 10 to 11 guys here. So, man, I just don't see a path to Michigan State winning here. Duke is just too tough with Banchero. And like I said, AJ Griffin's kind of really changed the trajectory for me here. So his outside shot is really going to open things up for them in the tournament here. He's going to be needed to advance far.
Yeah, it very much so is. And it's going to be curious to see what Izzo does in this game. We talked a little bit earlier about how these rotations tend to shorten up in the tournament, and MSU has been rolling out feels like 20 guys every game. So wonder if they tighten that up and get a few more guys some more run, or if they keep with that kind of turnstile approach. But ultimately, a little bit too much athleticism. Arguably, some of the best players in the country are all in the starting 5 for Duke. So certainly makes sense why they would advance. And we will advance back to the East for our second round. Just recapping, we have the 1-8 matchup with Baylor and UNC. We had St. Mary's and UCLA both advancing for that 5-4 matchup. Virginia Tech, the somehow 11 seed, facing off against the number 3 Purdue Boilermakers, and Murray State and University of Kentucky down there in the 2-7 matchup. So with that first one off the board, Baylor, UNC, really interesting 1-8 game. How do you see this one ultimately breaking out?
Okay, so I've gone back and forth several times on this, right? It's not just because I'm a Texas fan. We don't like Baylor very much. Hey, I've been picking Tech. But I just don't know, man. Baylor, kind of limping in here the final month of the season. North Carolina, I just feel like their ceiling is so much higher than what they've shown this year. I mean, one of the best backcourts if they can just get it together here. And then you got the big man. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm picking North Carolina here.
Let's go. Nothing else to say.
Tell
I
me I'm
will
crazy.
say that.
Tell me I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy at all, right? It's certainly not going to be the most popular pick, but we've seen, what this Tar Heels team can be when they're clicking on all cylinders and they are motivated to, I don't know, make sure Coach K doesn't leave Cameron Indoor with a win in his last game there. So definitely have a lot of upside in this team. And Baylor is facing some legitimate injury questions, right? Whether it's players that are going to be available, whether they're going to be 100%. So a lot of things that are kind of working against this Baylor Bears team, and it certainly primes the pump for an upset from a team that in North Carolina, had they been playing up to their potential most of the year, I think they could easily be in that 3-4 seed consideration. So definitely like the upset here in this 1-8 matchup. Scrolling on down to our 4-5 tilt, UCLA Bruins, St. Mary's Gales, pretty evenly matched overall. Which side of this one do you like?
Yeah, I like UCLA here. I barely like St. Mary's to get out of. I don't even know if I like them fully to get out of the matchup with the Wyoming or in Indiana. So definitely going to like UCLA here. I'm just waiting for UCLA to click on all cylinders here, and like we said earlier, I mean, it's probably going to happen in tournament time. So they looked really good for 35 minutes last game. Juzang, man, if he gets it going, whew, he's really going to tear this thing up and run through the tournament like he did last year. So just too much firepower, I think. And just St. Mary's, nice season, but this is the end of the road.
Man, I was gonna say, where have I heard this story before? Kind of down and out, under-respected UCLA team, all of a sudden clicking on all cylinders and making a deep run.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember where, but maybe it'll come back to me later. We'll carry on with another team that is an 11 seed that might be primed for a deep run, a la UCLA of last year or something. Facing off against the number 3 Boilermakers, do you think that Virginia Tech is going to continue their run here, or are the big men there for Purdue just a little bit too much to handle?
Man, it's gonna be Clash of the Titans, right? Aluma and Mutz versus Ivy and Williams and Edie. It's gonna be a fun matchup if we get this one. At the end of the day, man, Purdue, they just have everything you'd look for. I mean, they have 4th and 3-point shooting to go with the 2 bigs. Oof, that's a lot to handle, right? So
it is a ton to handle,
I mean,
and it's funny because it was kind of a Freudian slip, right? You were looking to talk about Williams and Edie, and you accidentally said Ivy, and that's really the point that persists, right? This matchup with all 4 of these big men across the 2 teams is going to be legendary, but there's no Jaden Ivey there on the Virginia Tech side. So no. I think that's where you're going to see the Boilermakers prevail.
Yep, I like them to move on.
And we will move on to the 2-7 matchup, Kentucky Wildcats, Murray State Racers. Got another upset up your sleeve, or this one playing pretty chalk?
Yeah, man, I would love to pick Murray State here, right? But until I see, one of these mid-majors be able to slow this guy down, I don't think that's going to happen. So, Sheboy's just been too good. 17 points, 15 rebounds. Ooh, like KJ Williams, good luck, my man. But I think that's the end of the road here. They haven't quite seen anybody like this guy, so it'll
long
be a
day in the office.
Yeah, long day in the office, man. It's exactly.
They don't have very many Oscar Sweebes there in the mid majors, so tend to agree that we'll see Murray State bounced out here, and we have now bounced into the Sweet 16 of the left side of the bracket here. So we will go back to the West. Our first matchup, we've got the 1-5 Gonzaga and UConn, and then we had Texas Tech and Duke advancing on the other side. So with the 1-5 matchup, keeping it going with Gonzaga as the prevailing team in the Sweet 16, or are we going to see a little bit more trouble for the Bulldogs coming out of the Huskies.
Man, if we get this matchup, I am going to maybe have to relook at what we're picking here. I just really like Connecticut here. I mean, Sanogo's just, if he stays out of foul trouble, the guy's just so good. I like that they play two traditional bigs. It's very throwback. It's different than what a lot of teams are doing. I would love to see a Sanogo Whaley matched up against Timmy and Holmgren. Yeah, that definitely would be definitely worth the price of admission there. So I think at the end of the day, though, man, it's just really hard to pick against Gonzaga. Andrew Nimhart, when you look at it, the bigs are probably going to cancel each other out. Andrew Nimhart been so good this year, leading that Gonzaga team here. And I just think he's going to be the difference if these two teams face off. So I definitely like Gonzaga to move on. But I expect this one to be a close game if we get it.
Yeah, real similar comp to what we were talking about with Purdue and Virginia Tech, right? Like that battle on the inside is going to be an absolute massacre, right? It's going to be fireworks back and forth. But with the guard play in Gonzaga, a little bit too much to overcome there for the Huskies. But maybe we'll write this one in pencil and see if we update our outcome based on how the bracket actually unfolds. So we will move down to the 2-3 matchup: the Duke Blue Devils, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Which side of this one you got, Mike?
Wow, man! I mean, this would be a really unique and interesting matchup, right? You've got the long, athletic Duke team. And you've got the plodding, slow, wants to limit possession Texas Tech team. Man, maybe I'm falling victim to the Coach K narrative here, but I feel like they've got a chance to make a run here. I just really believe in Paulo Banchero. And then I really just think Mark Williams, you saw what he did against Gonzaga. Man, the guy is just such a force. We've been playing him in DFS. He can, throw up 50 fantasy points in DFS and really be a game changer. When he's playing well, they're an entirely different team. So I don't think anybody has on Texas Tech to be able to keep him off the glass, even as physical as they are. But I just think that Banchero, Griffin, Wendell Moore, they're just they're relentless at attacking the basket, and that could cause some foul trouble for Texas Tech here. And so also you look at Tech too, they like to turn the ball over a lot. And when you start playing these super athletic teams, that can be an issue here, and you don't ever want to give Duke multiple possessions. So I do like Duke in this matchup.
Yeah, the thing for me, you mentioned a couple of things to like about the Red Raiders. They slow it down, they're a plotting team, they're defensively strong. These are all things that we typically look for in a team that can score an upset, except usually those teams are a little bit better shooting from deep, right? We're looking at 282nd in 3-point percentage for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. If you're going to slow it down, if you're going to try to limit the opponent's possessions, you have to be really effective at getting 3 points when you go down as opposed to 2, and they're just not quite there. So definitely think this is where we see the Red Raiders fall off after an impressive Sweet 16 run. We will run over to the east side here on the left, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So our Sweet 16, to recap, we've got a 4-8 matchup between UCLA and UNC. We have a 2-3 matchup with Kentucky and Purdue. This 4-8 matchup, we talked about it a little bit before. First off, a lot of powder blue on the court. Going to be an interesting one just from an aesthetic standpoint. But two teams that have kind of underwhelmed, right? Certainly haven't played up to their potential for the majority of this season. How do you see this one shaking out in the Sweet 16?
Yeah, this would be a really fun matchup, right? Two classic blue bloods here battling it out for a spot in the Elite Eight here. So definitely a lot of fireworks that could happen in this game. Definitely both teams like to run up and down the court, shoot the 3 ball. Man, for me, I'm just really liking what I saw from the UCLA team, even though they fell victim the last 5 minutes to the Arizona team that won the Pac-12 championship there. But man, what I saw was that Juzang's looking a lot better. Hawkes is looking a whole lot better than what he was looking like 2 weeks ago. And I think at the end of the day, it's just going to be really tough. North Carolina, they're just inconsistent. And I just, the more experienced team here, the guys that were there last year, I think they can lean on that at UCLA and be able to make a deep run and get to the Elite Eight here. So definitely like UCLA to move on.
Yeah, with the Bruins, right? Overall, really efficient team, both offensively and defensively. And in this matchup, they're getting a boost to their 3-point percentage. Right, North Carolina is 255th in opponent 3-point percentage. So if they're able to sort of maintain their efficiency and take advantage of that lift in the three ball, very much so should be a game that we're going to see UCLA do plenty of scoring and advance to the Elite Eight. That brings us down to the last matchup of the Sweet 16 here on the left side. Number 2, Kentucky Wildcats against number 3, Purdue Boilermakers. An amazing matchup if we see this one ultimately play out. How do you like this one to unfold?
Oh man, why can't this be like a Final Four title game matchup, man?
Yeah, right. Best of 5 at minimum.
Oh my god, like please, like this would be just a slugfest right here. Because we talked about, there's no Jaden Ivey in the previous game. Well, for Virginia Tech, well, guess what? There's Ty Washington and Severe Wheeler. They got some guards that can play on Kentucky. So how does Shibwe handle Edey? How does Shibwe handle Williams when he comes off the bench? Because I don't see Shibwe coming off the court unless he's in foul trouble. But guess what? Guess who draws a lot of fouls, right? Our guys here. Edey and Williams just going to get to the free throw line here and make it really tough on Shibwe. So, man, it's really tough to pick this one here, but just that fact there that they're able to overwhelm Shibwe with 2 guys here, and the fact that they're just so good from the 3-point line, man. Like, whenever you're this good inside and you can shoot the ball from deep, man, that's just a deadly combination during tournament time. So definitely liking Purdue here to move on.
Let's go Boilermakers. And we talked about it earlier in the stream tonight. We've talked about it all year as we've been breaking down the DFS slates. It really doesn't matter how premier, how elite the opposing big man is. These twin towers for Purdue, they break souls, right? I mean, until that Purdue game, TJD was like a 10K player. Now you can go out and get him for $7,100. I mean, ultimately, I think they're going to get out there. I think they're going to agitate Oscar, and they're going to try to get him into foul trouble early. And they've proven to be pretty successful at that through the majority of the regular season. So if that holds court and holds serve, then we're going to see 3-Bay in a lot of trouble and from a foul standpoint, and it's going to leave UK on the wrong side of this one. So like Purdue advancing here, and we are on to the Elite Eight. Back into the West, 1-2 matchup, nice and chalky. Gonzaga Bulldogs, Duke Blue Devils. How do you see this one shaking out, Mike? I'm curious as to where you ultimately decide to have a team advance on this particular matchup.
Well, it's a rematch here, man. Classic game at the beginning of the year. One of the more like back and forth, like fun, thrilling games that we saw at the beginning of the year. We saw Duke kind of overwhelm Gonzaga with their athleticism. So this is gonna be interesting and fun, right? How does Chet Holmgren's development over the course of the season, where he just looked a little bit lost, due to the size? He had Mark Williams in there just completely dominating. Banchero obviously broke out, and everyone knew he was going to continue to, have that upward trajectory in his college basketball career. So, man, I just, and I'm not a big Coach K fan anyway, but, Duke just looks good, man. They just profile well with some of their matchups here. And we've seen it, right? We've seen this matchup before. So really what it comes down to me is how's Holmgren going to play if these two teams square away? If he's going to be a force, then obviously Gonzaga's got a really good chance. If Duke's able to take him out of the game, Duke's guards are big. I mean, Trevor Keels, he's a big guy. AJ Griffin's playing the point. He's 6'4". You got Wendell Moore 6'6". I mean, they don't have a little guy until you bring Jeremy Roach off the bench, and he only plays 20 minutes and really just kind of gets that pick and roll going. But man, you're gonna have to deal with the size of Duke, not just Mark Williams, but man, they're one of the bigger teams and more athletic teams. And when you get to tournament time, man, it's really tough to beat a team that has that type of size and athleticism. So yeah, I like Duke. And it's Coach Krzyzewski. I mean, he's been here how many times? More than we can count. Seems like it, right? Like, geez, like 80% of the time he's in the Sweet 16, it feels like. And that's why he's Coach K. So definitely liking Duke in this matchup again. But wouldn't be surprised if Gonzaga was able to give it back to them.
So real talk question, just pure ignorance on my end. I'm hoping you can enlighten me. It seems like Gonzaga's here every year. They're almost always a 1 seed. They're often the number 1 overall seed, yet they are frequently not making it into at least deep into these brackets. Is that just kind of a product of the competition that they're playing? Not being in a Power 5 conference. How do you make sense of that? Is that just happenstance?
Yeah, so I think over the last couple of years, it's gotten a little bit better. You've seen San Francisco, you've seen St. Mary's, be a force. Pepperdine there for a few years was pretty good. So, yeah, I think it's a product, right? And I think a good thing that Mark Few's done is he scheduled tougher opponents at the beginning of the year, so that way his guys get that experience. I think they played like everybody. They played Texas, they played Alabama, they played Duke. It just felt like they're playing top 5 teams.
What is Texas doing in that list, my guy?
Hey, it was only it was a 14-point loss. That was when we were ranked 5th, and now we're a 6th seed. Yeah, I think he's done a really good job of scheduling out of conference, because once they get into conference, man, geez, you just see 30-point spreads, 27-point spreads, and then you get into the first round, you're the number 1 seed. Well, guess what? Your spread's going to be 25 again. You get to the next round, you're probably favored by double digits. So you're really not. And outside of a couple of St. Mary's games and maybe a challenge from somebody random in the West Coast Conference, you're really not playing anybody for a couple of months. So I think that has kind of limited Gonzaga, but they've been getting better players. Jalen Suggs, obviously. Now you got Chet Holmgren. Now they're getting the elite NBA prospects to go there, to go with the developmental guy like Drew Timme. He's not going to be an elite level NBA player, but he'll be a solid backup big in the league. So, for me, it's just going to come down, can Mark Few get over the hump, man? Like, that's the last thing that he needs. I love it. It feels like he was playing NCAA, football or college basketball on the video game console. You take the team from, mid-major and you turn them into a powerhouse, right? It feels like that's what he's done. So it would be nice to see him win it. For me, it just comes down to talent here. I'm not saying that Gonzaga doesn't have talent, but I think when you run across the board, man, you just see uber talented guys on the Duke side. And man, we saw when they played the first time, it looked like 2 different teams. So that's why I like Duke in this one.
Yeah, I mean, year after year, part of the reason why you probably don't like Coach K and why a lot of people don't like the Duke Blue Devils, they oftentimes have more talent coming off of their bench than most of their opponents have in their starting 5. So a lot to overcome, especially in this one and done sort of setup. So this is where we see the Bulldogs exit, and we will head back down to the East for a 3-4 matchup. Purdue Boilermakers, UCLA Bruins. Who's advancing to the Final Four?
Yeah, I guess if you guys haven't already figured out, I really like Purdue. I can't say enough about their inside-outside game. I know their defense is really taking a little bit of a step back here. But Stefanovic, the wing there, he's sneaky, man. He can have one of those 25-point outbursts when you're so focused on taking Ivy out of the game. Maybe you have Williams or Edey in foul trouble. He's someone that can go out there and get you 20 points. So they got multiple weapons. And I think just overall, man, like, when you're able to just pound the rock into the paint here and get easy buckets, get to the foul line, get teams in foul trouble, it's just a recipe for success. And then at the end of the game, and we've seen Jaden Ivey, hit game winners this year. You just give them the ball in the last second, and you feel pretty good about where you're going to be. A nice run here for UCLA. I just think it's this matchup right here is just a little bit too much for Cody Riley here to handle these big guys. Even though you have the other big there that can Miles Johnson that can help him out, but man, these guys are just too good, and I really, really like them this year to do some really good things. So definitely picking Purdue to move on here.
Man, I feel like there's not a whole lot of conversation going on out there about Purdue and just how well-rounded this team is, right? You've got the 2 big men in the middle, but this team is still 4th in the NCAA in 3-point percentage, right? Like, they can literally beat you a number of different ways, and having so many outs is just a recipe for success in the variability setting that is the big dance, the tournament here. So we have our first Final Four matchup set for the left side of the bracket. Number 2, Duke. Number 3, Purdue. who's taking it home, who's heading to the championship game from the left side of the bracket.
Yeah, so first just want to say that I think this year is unique because there's not really a true, dominant team this year. I mean, you could see upwards to 10 teams win the whole thing. No one would be surprised if a UCLA ended up in the championship game. No one would be surprised if Purdue made it to the championship game. Duke's in there, Gonzaga. Nobody would be surprised if Baylor made a run. I mean, there's just so many quality teams this year. We haven't even talked about the other side. So I don't think this is a year where you're going to see 3 number ones in the Final Four. The mid majors this year, pretty good this year. Murray State's and you got Virginia Tech at an 11 like that. When you're facing that type of talent and those and those 7 to 11 lines, the 12 line, there's going to be some upsets this year. So if you're thinking our bracket's looking a little crazy because the ones are getting either bounced early. I mean, look at it. We've seen it this year. What did we see a couple of weeks ago where the top 6 teams all lost on the same day? So, yeah.
7 out of the top 9.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous year. So you get these guys on neutral sites here, 60 minutes. Anything can happen. So for this particular matchup, though, Purdue and Duke, man, yeah, I would love to see this matchup here. Mark Williams would definitely have to earn his money in this one, taking on the 2 bigs here. It's going to be interesting, though, because, Duke can spread you out. So, how does Edie fare, kind of being that plotting big in the middle? You saw the game the other day, Duke and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech had the 2 bigs out there. And Duke, I know they were down trying to make a comeback, but they decided to put Banchero at the 5 and put Roach in the game and essentially running him as a small ball 5. And, man, that's an interesting look. They got so many different ways they can hurt you. So, something that we're testing out. And it just seems like both of these teams have a variety of ways to maneuver through this tournament, no matter what the matchup is. And that's why I think we have them taking each other on here for a chance to play for it all. At the end of the day, we keep saying it. Sounds like we're beating a dead horse here. You got the inside game. You got the outside game. You're pretty good on defense with Purdue. And you got the superstar, right? That's the recipe to getting to the title game. So I do like Purdue here to take Duke.
That is the recipe, and we will have the Purdue Boilermakers advance out of the left side of our bracket here. And you mentioned it before. We don't want to beat a dead horse here, but really the only question mark for this Purdue team is whether or not this coaching staff can make the adjustment, because they have all of the pieces to hit any of the outs that they might need, depending on how the game unfolds. So as long as the coaching staff is able to rise to the occasion, which we tend to think that they will, then we were very likely to see the Purdue Boilermakers come out of the left side of the bracket, head into a championship game here in the Caesars Superdome. And that is a wrap for the left side of the bracket. We've been plugging away here for the better part of an hour. Like I mentioned off the top, we are going to be rocking with you all week long here on the One and Done show. We'll be out here tomorrow night going through the right side of the bracket. We're going to have some content, not only taking a look at the upsets that we have already picked in our brackets, but some other teams that need to be on upset alert. And we're going to do a betting, a DFS, and a prop bet preview heading into tip-off here on Thursday. So stick with us here on the One and Done show. We are a proud member of the drroto.com media network. If you are looking for some more insight, if you're looking for help building out your bracket specifically, best place to do it, get over to our Discord, drroto.com. Get signed up. We are in there giving out winners every single day. My man's too humble, but I will throw him a nice big old shout out. Shipped the GPP a few nights ago. Got a couple extra $1,000 in his pocket. Always dishing out winners on Prize Picks. Always giving rock solid betting advice. The Discord for the CBB group at drroto.com is absolutely on fire. So if you're not already in there already, get over, get signed up, and start seeing those big paydays.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.